I'm Stephen Hustedde. I'm going to welcome you to the iOS cohort. This is our orientation, and along with me is Christopher Stevens.
Hi, nice to meet you all.
So we will be your tour guides this semester as we go through CS 165 and 265. We just had another session that we'd advertise students to come. We had one student come, and so we answered his questions. And so we're just going to kind of give you an overview or a condensed version of the questions he had. And basically those questions were, primarily, will I be able to develop an app? Will you give me the skills to develop an app, say a year or 2 years from now? And we said, no, actually you're gonna have the ability to develop an app at the end of the semester, because that's gonna be your final project. You gotta develop an app. So our goal is to give you a good foundation to develop an app for an iPhone, iPad, whether it be yours. We would put stuff up to the store. We did talk about the App Store, which there's a lot of hoops to jump through to be able to do that. I don't think we've had any students put something through one of their final projects through the App Store, at least not immediately. But I've had some students who put stuff through the App Store. So we'll give you those skills. And we talked a little about employment and, do you go on for a bachelor's degree? Do they offer more advanced courses after the 165, 265? And in most cases, that's not going to be true. You're not going to find iOS taught at ASU or U of A or NEU, at least not beyond the level we're doing. We did mention Stanford's got a really robust, pretty advanced course or fast-paced course that goes into probably some things we won't go into. And that's actually a MOOC. It's a multi-user online. What's the other O stand for?
Massive online. I don't know what other O stand for.
Yeah, it's a large course that anybody can take for free, and they'll have several thousand students taking this course. So it's offered through Stanford. So I mean, we're talking, upper echelon, the elite campuses. So I will find the link for that and make that available. It'd be a good supplement to go through this course. It will go much faster through stuff than we're probably going through. We talked a little about course materials, and we're going to walk through some of the, we're going to walk through the syllabus here in a minute, and that'll include the course materials. But we are using some books provided by Apple. We don't necessarily think are the best, but it's kind of our agreement with Apple. We use these books, and we kind of designed the course around those, but we're going to supplement those books a lot. In fact, all of your assignments are assignments we've created. They're not assignments that are in the book for the most part, other than maybe a couple of them. We're going to recommend some reference books. And as I mentioned to this student, he really likes using books. We do a lot more. I do a lot of stuff with video because I find students like to watch videos rather than read books. But videos do take a lot of time to create. And so we'll supplement that with videos that other people have done. But also, I mean, there's tons of books out there. So you can look for one that you think might meet your learning style. But I'll mention that what I do when I'm programming, because I program in a lot of different languages, and if I need to, I don't necessarily memorize everything. I don't memorize what's the syntax for creating an array in Swift, because I haven't programmed in Swift since last summer, and I mostly program in C#, maybe a little bit in Python, but experimenting a little bit with Kotlin. So I don't remember how I create an array in Swift. All right, I'll go to Google. And I'll type in Swift 5, which is our version, array. And I'm going to find 5,000 sites that will tell me how to create an array in Google or in Swift. Same with YouTube. You'll find lots of videos on very specific things. So I use Google and YouTube a lot just to look stuff up. Those are my reference tools for the most part. And I think most programmers do that. It's going to be stuff that's really up to date. I would caution you, though, always try to look at the version, look how old it is. If it's a Swift source from 2013 or 2014, you probably want to avoid it. We're in version 5 of Swift, and Swift first came out, I think it was around 2013 or so. So you can see it. We've gone through 5 versions in 7 years, 8 years. It's gone through a lot of changes, and a lot of commands have been deprecated and so forth. So you want to look for more recent stuff. Same in YouTube. Look when it was created and when it was uploaded. So those were some of the questions. Christopher, can you think of anything else that he had asked about?
No, I think you covered it all. And MOOC is massive open online course.
Open, thank you. It's open to everybody. We did talk a little bit about, careers and so forth. And we've had a lot of students come out of this course and get jobs with a company here in town, not necessarily doing iOS development, but doing other programming, Java, Python, assembler. Employers want somebody who knows how to program. They don't care so much about the language or the platform. And obviously there's lots of languages out there, but learn to program, learn to think like a developer. That's one thing we'll try to help you do. Neither Christopher nor I are Swift developers. We're not experts in this, but we both know programming pretty well. And so we can help you program and find your errors and so forth. And we'll probably do some learning with you along the way. We'll talk about Swift UI, which is a whole new ball game that we looked at a little bit last summer, but we're both still kind of learning that. So we'll be learning along with you in some cases. So we thought we'd share the syllabus and just walk through it for those who might be interested. Hopefully you've had a chance to read it. We'll just go through it really quickly. And I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully you are seeing our syllabi, our syllabus. So we are teaching 2 courses together in these 14 weeks. That might seem like a lot in a very short period of time. We taught these 2 courses together in 8 weeks this summer. So this is going to be like an eon for us. I did mention with this other student that we are very hands-on. So we teach experientially. We want you to get in, get your hands dirty. We're going to give you a lot of assignments that'll help you learn. So you have some projects every week. So both classes, 165 and 265, officially started yesterday, and they run through Friday, May 14th. Now it's not a we're going to go 165 first and then teach you 265. We're going to intermingle these things a little bit. Now the bulk of the 165 material is going to come in the front half. The bulk of the 265 material will come in the second half. But sometimes there's some things from 265 that makes sense to talk about in week 3 when we're covering data structures or whatever. So there'll be some intermingling of this. That's why we have these both start the same day and end the same day. The prerequisite is that you've come in with some programming experience. We don't expect you to have had any experience developing iOS or using Xcode or even programming in Swift. If you've programmed in Java, Python, C#, VB.NET, any of those will get you to where we need to go. We're going to focus on helping you make the jump from that language you do know to the Swift language. You're going to see it's pretty similar. And then we'll get into the interface development. So this is an online class. We will hopefully schedule some sessions like this where we'll invite you to come in and we'll try to record it if we can't, or if you can't make it. And we'll try to do some dog and pony, some demonstration stuff. We also have office hours. So here you'll see our office hours. Now, neither of us are on campus this semester since it's closed at this point, but we do have office hours online. So mine are going to be in Zoom, and I didn't put that here. I'm sorry. I think it's going to be Wednesdays from 1:30 to 4. And Christopher's are Wednesdays 5 to 7. He's doing his in WebEx. I do mine in Zoom. And I'll post that in the Canvas side as far as the link. It's actually with the same link you have up here, but I'll put a schedule in there. Word of caution for me is I'm also the division chair, and I have a ton of meetings. So this summer when we taught this course, we had our weekly meeting kind of whenever my schedule was available. And sometimes it was a Tuesday at 10, sometimes a Wednesday at 3 o'clock, sometimes it was maybe a Thursday evening. So my office hours, I'm going to try to reserve that as much as possible, but be aware that sometimes I have some mandatory meetings or some urgent meetings come up and I have to cancel those office hours or miss them. So I'm going to suggest you always make an appointment, at least with me. And I think it's probably true with Christopher as well. That'll make it easier for us and for you as well. Make sure we can reserve that time. I'm going to really try to block that time out as much as possible though. Be aware also that those office hours, we're teaching other courses. And so we have students from other classes dropping in those office hours as well. So an appointment will kind of help make sure that we have time to help you. Our communication policy. So I have a lot of meetings. I get a lot of email. I think Christopher probably does too, but I get about 150 a day. Some of which I can just dump, but it takes me a while to do triage on my email. And so if you will put in your email for the subject heading, something like iOS and then your statement, that will help me filter those and make sure I get a response back to you quickly. If you don't put a subject matter, chances are it's just going to go into my junk file, and you're never going to get a response from me. If you email us though through the Canvas system, that also flags it for us. So that's the ideal way, is probably do it through Canvas. Make sure that all of our email we send out will go through your MEID, so make sure you are forwarding your MEID to whatever email you use. Course descriptions. You can read through this. This is basically what we come to a decision at the district level. And basically every campus teaches CS 165 and 265 using the same description and the same competencies. What we emphasize in each campus, though, is different, and we are required to cover the competencies, but we will add a lot of stuff in. You will see Swift UI not mentioned here anywhere because these were done probably 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and that's a newer skill set. We think it's important. We're going to cover that. What we have done on this campus is we've taken and created student learning outcomes. And we've said we want 3 or 4 outcomes for every course that are sort of the big picture umbrella items. And those are course level student learning outcomes. We have student learning outcomes at the program level and at the institutional level. So at this course, we have 3 things for CS 165. We're going to basically teach you to create storyboards and Swift UI as well in setting up your interface. We're going to teach you to write code with Swift and creating outlets and actions with that code that's tied to the interface. And then we'll do some multi-screen apps. How do I move from one screen to another? That's the big picture items. Those really include these competencies that we have at the district. So you'll see things up here explaining what the iOS developer program has to offer, things like that. Some of that stuff we might spend 5 minutes on. We'll cover it, but spend 5 minutes on. A lot of this you might get through your readings. You'll see one here, create interfaces for iOS apps. That's a big picture item. In doing that and testing them, we're going to use iOS simulators. That's kind of included in that number 1. We're going to use frameworks and Swift programming. We're going to use iOS SDK. So all that is kind of included in this first one. So those are the big picture. By the way, we will grade everything to those 3 student learning outcomes. We'll get more back to that in a minute. Here's our 265 course. Same thing, description, competencies, and our student learning outcomes. So our student learning outcomes here are we're going to use a design pattern called Model View Controller. And basically think of the model as the data, think of the view as the interface, and think of the controller as the code that talks between those two. That's a Model View Controller architecture. And there's lots of different architectures out there. This is the one that iOS uses. We're going to use frameworks. We'll introduce you things like, we'll use UIKit pretty much in all of our stuff. We'll look at core data, MyExplore Game Kit, Siri Kit's another one's out there if you want to do things with Siri. Now, some of those frameworks are only available to developers who buy the $99 a year license. Siri Kit is one of those. So we might demonstrate a couple of those, but we're not asking you to buy that license, so you may not have hands-on some of those. But we'll introduce you to iOS frameworks, and then we're going to do some advanced GUI controls, or what we might call views. We mentioned views up here. Yeah, I guess I use various controls. Controls are terminology that really comes out of some other languages such as C#. In the iOS side, the Mac side, we talk about controls as being views. So those are the 3 big items there. We'll add in some value along the way. We'll talk about Swift UI, image views. We're going to look at how to work with graphics, how to set up your graphics with 3 different resolutions. I've got a little JavaScript, if you use Photoshop, that will let you do that in a very easy way. We'll talk about some things like generics. Hopefully we get into how do I use the device features, such as I want to use my GPS in an app. How can I do that? That's not part of the competencies the district says we need to cover, but we want to try to get to some of those things. Part will depend on time. We will be using Canvas for our course site. And if you have not used Canvas, it's our learning management system. We will use Canvas to distribute materials, as well as you will get your assignments there and submit your assignments into Canvas, where we can download them, grade them, and we'll give you feedback in Canvas. and then our course materials. So you will need an Apple ID. If you've never used a Mac before, we've got an address here. We can go get your Apple ID. And then with that ID, you will create a developer account. And again, URL here to get to the developer side of Apple. There are 3 different accounts there. One is a free account. That's all you need. Okay, free accounts let you create stuff for your own, be able to test them on your device and so forth. You can't put things into the App Store if you want to sell them or distribute them to other people. You need to buy the $99 a year license to do that. There's also a $250 license that allows you to create things for intranet distribution within a company. We are using a product called Xcode. That's our interface development environment. For those who come out of C#, it's sort of our Visual Studio. And I think I'm using version 12.3. Christopher, is that what you're using? Yeah. So
Yes.
we're both using 12.3. If you download it in the Apple or in the Apple App Store, Apple Store, right now the most recent version is 12.4. And if you want to install 12.4, that's fine. I'm going to recommend, though, if you want to stay with us step by step, you might want to just install 12.3. And there's a link here where you can download that older version rather than going through the App Store. So that's my suggestion. If you've already have 12.4, hey, we can work with it. There shouldn't be any problems. I think things will be backwards compatible and so forth. And then the difference between 12.4 and 12.3 is pretty minor. If you have an older computer, let's say you're not running Mac OS Catalina, that's what we're both running, but maybe you're running Mavericks, and Xcode 12 may not run on that. I don't remember. If you need to use Xcode 11, hey, you're fine with that. We can work with that. There may be some things that won't function the exact same way. You may not have the preview and using Swift UI. So I'd recommend using Xcode 12, and if you can, use Catalina as your operating system. If you went out and bought a new Mac this week, you probably have Big Sur. Hey, Big Sur is great. We both have laptops that are owned by the college, and the college right now is not supporting Big Sur, so we could not go to Big Sur. So we're using Catalina instead. So there's a screenshot on how to get to that 12.3 version. The textbook. So we have a recommended textbook. It says required in the bookstore. It's not required. It's recommended. And I used not to use a textbook. And I've had several students say they didn't like, they appreciated the ebooks, but some students really wanted a physical book that they could carry with them to a doctor's appointment or write in the margins and so forth. So at the time, I didn't really have a book that I recommended. And then I came across this book, Hello Swift by Tanmay Bakshi. And I looked at this book and I really enjoyed it. It's easy to read. It's kind of geared towards younger people. And then I discovered the author, Tanmay Bakshi, wrote this book and published it when he was 15 years old. And he was already working for IBM. He's an incredible programmer, does a lot of stuff with artificial intelligence. But I love the way he wrote this book, and he made it very simple and easy to understand. So it's a good book for a beginner. So it's available through our bookstore and available through Amazon. It's not a textbook, it's a trade book. So the nice thing is the price is about $35 on it. And you can also get it as an ebook as well. So it's available through Amazon as on the Kindle, and I think you can get it through a PDF through the publisher. We have some iBooks though. These are electronic books, and iBooks is kind of like a Kindle for Mac or for iPad. It's books going through the Apple bookstore. And so Apple has provided some books for us with development in Swift. So one is called Development Swift Fundamentals, and one is called Development Swift Data Collections. They work hand in hand. The data collections kind of follows on the fundamentals. And this is kind of came out of what they used to call a couple of years ago, Everyone Can Code curriculum. It's curriculum they've written for grade school, high school, and college. Our agreement with Apple is we would use these books. Okay, everybody turn your video off at this point because we're not going to record this. Well, actually, we'll record it. I'm going to probably edit this out. I don't really care for these books that much. They're not the way I learn, but we're going to use them. So we're going to design around kind of the flow of these books. And I'm going to suggest you read through them, but we're going to supplement these a lot. And we'll supplement these with additional videos, both that we'll create, videos that other people have created. There's a lot of stuff out there, some tutorials, other websites, things like that. So it's kind of brings me to the point of, in an online class like this, you are responsible for your own learning. So I'm going to encourage you to research. If you find a topic that just doesn't make sense, that you're reading through these books or we haven't explained well, Google it, YouTube it, find out what else is out there. As programmers, we almost always have to do that. We always have to research our stuff, especially as technology changes. There's another book available through Apple called the Swift Programming Language. It's a reference book on Swift 5.3. I'm not crazy about it as a reference book is either. To me, it's a little harder to find things. I did just find a book, and I put it in the checklist for week 1 called Swift Cheat Sheet 5.3. It's $3, so it's not a free book, but it's only $3, $2.99 to be exact. And you can buy it through the iBooks store, or you can buy it through Amazon for your Kindle. I kind of like it better. It's a little more of a, to me, it's a little more of a reference book for me. It's laid out where I can, okay, I want to find something on variables. I can go to a chapter on variables. I find this book a little harder to find that information. Of course, you can search it, but those are the books we'll reference. We won't necessarily teach out of these books, but we will give you readings for them each week. And I'll come to the schedule here in a minute. So I'm going to hopefully introduce Adobe XD. This is not a required program. It's just something that you might find useful for designing. We'll talk a little bit about designing our user interface and user experience. Adobe XD is sort of becoming the standard for basically doing storyboards in terms of sketching out what a screen might look like. Don't confuse that with the storyboards we'll talk about when we get into iOS app development. Do I need an iPhone or iPad? No, you do not. Might find it helpful, but everything you do in this class, you will be able to test in a simulator that is part of Xcode. And in that simulator, you can choose what device you want to test it on. Do I want to test it on an iPhone 6, an iPhone 8 Plus, an iPhone 12 Pro? How about an iPad, iPad mini? You can choose any device you want to test on and see what it's going to look like on that device. So some other things you might find helpful as far as if you have an iPad, of course you can use iPad with iBooks. So I usually use my iPad to have my books as a reference next to my computer rather than switching back and forth between screens. There are some playgrounds you can run on an iPad, which are some ways to do programming, just in Swift, no interface. Keynote is sort of their version of PowerPoint, and it'll be installed with your OS, but if you hear somebody say, hey, go to Keynote, it's sort of their version of PowerPoint. And then there's a Canvas app out there as well. It can be installed on an iPad or iPhone. Additional resources. Human Interface Guideline is Apple's standards on what your app should look like and how it should function. If you want to put stuff into the store, it's pretty important that you follow their guidelines or they'll reject it. We have a YouTube channel, and I gave you a link here to the playlist for the iOS cohort. And right now, I think there's about 30 videos in there. Some of them are old. Some of them I did a number of years ago. And so there might be some things that are a little bit different today. And we're going to try and reduce some of these videos and add more to them as the semester progresses. I also put here the annual Worldwide Developers Conference links. This is where Apple announces new stuff, but they always have workshops, and as the new stuff comes, like when they introduce Swift UI, they'll do a 45-minute presentation on what Swift UI does and how it works. Those are sometimes worth watching. So you can explore those. There's also a link here to all the Apple developer videos, their documentation, and their forums where you can ask questions. Okay, let me take a breath. All right, grading. So I mentioned those CSLOs. We grade everything to those CSLOs. You might have one assignment worth 1 point because it covers one CSLO. You might have an assignment worth 6 points because it covers all 6 CSLOs, or maybe different aspects of one of these might be worth 2 points for this CSLO. But everything is aligned to those student learning outcomes that we've developed. Now, we added a fourth one here on the CS265, and that is to design, develop, test, and install an app of your own creation that meets class requirements and present it. So during finals week, or maybe the week leading up to finals, we're going to have you creating your own app those last couple of weeks. And the last couple of weeks kind of reserved just for you working on that app. But then you're going to present it to the class. Now, here's what we did the last few times we've done this course. We did this summer. Is we'd like to make that meeting public. Meaning, we want you to invite your family and friends to come see your app and see the apps of other students. We'd like to invite some other faculty, some of our administrators, and some employers to come hear what you're doing. We had some people from Apple last summer that came to our presentations as well. You'll have about 10 minutes to present your app. So I have that tentatively scheduled. It was up here in our class meetings. Friday, May 7th, and I was thinking probably 10 a.m. So Matt would put that on your calendar. It took us about 2 hours to get through everybody last time, and we have about the same number of students as we do this semester. All right, so that'll be worth 10 points. There will be a few points, actually, I should say it's a little bit different. It's actually more than the 10 points available. These are the maximum points you need to hit in each of these different CSO levels. And I'll show the grade book here in a minute. There's more points available than that 50 total points. So we have extra credit built in. So that's one nice thing. That's one that's kind of nice is if you come to an assignment that you're struggling with, or you're having a really rough week and you're struggling with time management, is you can skip an assignment. We're going to encourage you to do them all. And I think last semester, pretty much every student did every single assignment. But if you get into a bind, that's okay. If you don't do well on an assignment, it's probably not going to hurt your grade. So we're going to use a 90, 80, 70, 50% scale on the grading. Rather than 60%, we do 50% to get a D. Because if you get a D, you're going to have to retake the course anyway if you're a major to get it to count towards your certificate. I'm going to guess most of you are going to be in this A-B category. That's just been our experience in this course. We try to make this course fun, so you're kind of motivated to do it. Our assignments, I think, are challenging, but I think you'll enjoy them. If you have a disability, here is the phone number and email for our Disability Resource Services office. We can make accommodations for you, such as extra time if you have a learning disability, but that needs to be recorded with DRS. We can't make special accommodations unless you've gone through those channels. Attendance requirements. So this is an online course. There really is no attendance. We're going to do some sessions we encourage you to come to, but if you never want us to see your face until that very last presentation, we'll live with that. It's not our preference, but we'll live with it. But just so some time management here. An average course, a normal 3-credit course with a lab, which is what we have in each of these courses, is about 8.5 hours a week. Now we're doing 2 courses. So you're looking at about 19 hours a week because we're doing it as 14 weeks rather than 16 weeks. So it's compressed a little bit. This is a standard the Department of Education has for higher education and maintaining seat time. That's part of our accreditation. So we do design things around that. Someone with experience or who really gets this really quickly may not need that much time. Some people may need a little bit more. This is sort of an average. It's kind of what we gear towards. I would say budget that. I think our experience is some students, probably the majority of students, do it faster than that 19 hours a week. As I said, we did the summer in 8 weeks, so those students are doing a lot faster or a lot more work each week. Here's the important thing. We have an entrance survey that's due tomorrow, Wednesday, February 3rd at 5 p.m. This is what we use to show that you showed up that first week. And if you haven't showed up, we have to drop you as a no-show. It's the district policy. Neither Christopher nor I came up with that decision. Computer lab right now is closed. We do have some Macs up there though. when it does reopen. We're hoping campus will reopen around spring break. Academic misconduct, I'll let you read through this, but basically to sum this all up, you're required to do your own work. We ask you to not share your code with others for the purpose of them turning in the code and claiming it as their own, or you claiming somebody else's as your own. That's plagiarism, that's academic misconduct. And it's not so much a problem in this course. I've had other programming courses where it's a huge problem. And unfortunately, had to fail some students and even have a student suspended for plagiarism. Please also note that materials we provide you are copyrighted in most cases. Please do not distribute them outside of this course. I've had students in other courses take assignments and post them into some of these websites that will offer to create your assignment for you for pay, but they publish that. And of course, you're not learning anything because they do the assignment for you. But then that project is out there for the world. And we kind of pride in creating some stuff that's unique to South Mountain. We're not ready to share it with the world. We think we have a really good course here, but if it gets out there, then other people start creating these things, and it kind of dismantles the learning process. So please do not distribute that. Of course, that's also a federal law violation. And I will say we will protect our intellectual property. A few more things here to read through. You're responsible for the syllabus. Read through it, then do that entrance survey. Because one of the questions on there is, yes, I've received and read through the syllabus, to make sure you're answering that positively. Lectures and demonstrations may not be recorded without our consent. In some cases, we will record these things and make them available through Canvas. You, the registered student, are responsible to know and understand the syllabus. You can ask us for clarification of any policies. By the way, let me go back to this for a minute on sharing code. There may be some times when we allow you to work maybe as a team, and let you do a project together. That just needs to be clarified with us beforehand. We do encourage you to create a study group and to help each other, help debug each other's code. You can share your code for that purpose, share your projects for that purpose, or demonstrate it. You all have access to WebEx. You can share your screen in WebEx, just like I'm doing here, and help each other figure out what's not working. That is not plagiarism. That is being smart. Now, being plagiarism would be Christopher sharing his code with me. I take my camera and I snap it with my cell phone, take a photo of it, and then I write that code in my Xcode and submit it as my own. Now I've crossed the line, okay? So you can't share it digitally that way. All right. And retain copies of all your coursework until the final grade of the semester. These are your projects. You're going to create a portfolio along the way. You'll want to keep those things. I always share this because a few years ago, a number of years ago, we were using a different learning management system and it crashed. And a lot of faculty have their grade books in that management system. And it crashed and they lost their grade book. And unfortunately, the person at the district who'd been backing all that stuff up every night had kind of not done his job for the last month. And some students lost work because they didn't retain their copies. They had to redo it. So always keep copies of work until you get to the final grade. Personally, I'd probably keep copies of my work forever. Know your rights and responsibilities in the student handbooks. There's a link there, and computer usage policies. That is the syllabus. So before I go on to the schedule, Christopher, you want to add anything?
Yes. One thing I want to add about is with the assignments. Do not stress about the number of assignments. As Stephen pointed out, we understand that sometimes things happen, and that's why there is extra points and extra assignments that are available. However, what we did see in last summer was that every student attempted every assignment, and they were, in my opinion, far more successful because of it. So don't stress about it, but give it a try. What's the worst that can happen? You learn something.
Yeah. You know, I always have beginning programmers get frustrated with errors that they have to debug. And they're like, I'll be so happy when I no longer have errors in my code. So I've been teaching coding for 30 some years. I've been coding a little bit longer than that. I consider myself a very good programmer. It's rare that I write a program of any significant size anyway that doesn't have errors in it, that something doesn't go wrong. It's part of being a programmer. And sometimes It might be I missed a comma somewhere, and it will literally take me an hour and a half to figure that out. Okay? Now, as I've gotten better and better at programming, I can find my errors pretty quickly, and our development environments have gotten so sophisticated, they help us find those errors much easier. Sometimes it might be you misspelled something, or sometimes it's, that approach I used didn't work the way I thought it was going to work. I need to rethink what I did and approach it from a different perspective. I might need to change my interface. I might need to wipe out all my code and start over. That usually isn't the case. Sometimes it is, but that's part of being a programmer. So don't get frustrated when your program doesn't work. That's normal. Just learn to work through it and to fix it. As you're writing your programs, make sure you test them thoroughly. So what happens if the user, you ask them to enter an integer, what happens if they enter a decimal point? Does it still work? Have you made plans to make sure that that's taken care of, or is it going to crash on them? And I will tell you, here's what Apple does when they test your program in the Apple Store, is they try to break it. They actually physically test your app. And they have programs that will test your app as well. They try to physically break it. If they can get it to crash, guess what? It's rejected. So it's got to work. It's got to work perfectly. If it gives wrong results, they're going to reject it. So that error debugging is part of the process we all go through. And I don't know of any programmer, I don't care if they've been programming for 50 years, who still doesn't have to do that. All right, let me jump over to the schedule. I'm going to stop my share here for a minute, go back in, share my screen, find the schedule. Okay, so we distribute this as an Excel spreadsheet, and it's interactive. So you can use this to track your grades. Now, what you're going to see here is we divided this up by week, and this is tentative. We may have to slow things down if people are struggling. We may add some things in. We may change some assignments along the way. Most of these are assignments we've taught before. We might decide that, gosh, you remember that reservoir monitor? People really struggle with that. Let's do something different this semester. So you might see us change something along the way. Most likely we'll probably add some more things in. If we add some more assignments in, that 50-point base is not going to change. You're just going to have more opportunities to get those 50 points. Okay? So each week we give you the dates. Our assignments are due Sunday at midnight. Okay, and we'll try to grade them quickly thereafter. But that's our due date, Sunday at midnight. Our perspective is, life gets in the way sometimes. We're going to set up things that are a week late. So you have a week grace period on everything. So if it comes Sunday midnight and your program's still not working and you go, oh, I need another day on this. Great, you have another day. You can turn it in late, okay? Up to 1 week late. And so try to get it done before midnight on Sunday if you can. Just maintain your own sanity. And also don't wait until Sunday afternoon to go, oh, I haven't looked at my iOS stuff this week. I got to read these chapters. I got to work through this material. Then I got to do these assignments. Don't wait until Sunday afternoon. Budget your time throughout the week. That 19 and a half hours cannot be done starting at noon on Sunday and getting to midnight. You only got 12 hours. So schedule your time appropriately. You'll get a feel for as you go through the first few weeks what this is going to take probably for you. So here's the Swift text. Now when you see the 1:1-4, this is the period there, 1.1-4, that refers to that foundations course. Then I've also added in the box sheet chapters that kind of correspond to that. Now, when you get down a little further into the course, let's jump down here. You're going to see chapter 2, section 10 of the foundations course, and then you'll see a DC. And that DC 1.1 means it's chapter 1, unit 1, or unit 1, chapter 1, I guess, of the data collections book. So those chapters are preceded by DC. So that's the readings. You'll see the topics we're going to cover. Things that are in italics or maybe in blue are not necessarily part of the text. It's stuff we're going to add in. So I don't think the text covers random numbers. Actually, I guess it does because I added it into the playground, but it isn't covered in the text. Okay, so you're going to go, that's the topics, and then here's our assignment. So you have that entrance survey due Wednesday. It's the only one that's not due on a Sunday at midnight. And you're going to get 1 point for doing that exit survey. Or entrance survey, not exit survey. You get 1 point. That's an extra credit point you can apply to any one of these student learning outcomes. I just realized I have a typo here. Student learning outcomes. We have 3 projects for you to do in playgrounds. This is a console lab. Most of these are code. Actually, they're all probably code of maybe 10 to 15 lines of code. They're not hard. And each one's worth 1 point in developing with Swift. That's your CSLO there. When we get into the second week, there's a flashlight guided project that comes out of the textbook. It's one of the few. It comes out of the Foundations book. We're going to guide you through that a little bit more probably than what's in that book. It's worth 3 points. You get 1 point for the first SLO, which we're calling A1, and 2 points available for, you're going to develop outlets and actions. We're going to give you 2 points for that. It's a pretty simple project. You can do that project probably in about 30 to 45 minutes. By the way, that flashlight was one of the first apps ever created in the App Store when iPhone was first introduced. The guy who wrote it, pretty much in about 2 weeks period of time, made over $1 million. Okay. Now, you've heard those stories before. A lot of people became millionaires overnight by creating apps. That doesn't happen much these days. Okay. I will tell you, if you go to the App Store, there are probably 1,000 different flashlights available in the App Store, or a calculator, whatever. There's a lot of competition, a lot of stuff given away for free. Unless you have the latest, greatest killer app that's a whole new idea, or you're hitting a market that hasn't been tapped, you're not going to make $1 million on your app in most cases. Once in a while it happens. So, okay, so basically we have 4 assignments due the second week, and then 3 the third week, and so forth. So you can kind of see we have anywhere from 2 to 4 assignments each week, and the points that you're going to get in each SLO. So again, these are the CS165. These grayed out ones are the CS265, and then you've got your app you're going to create. That's that 4th SLO 265, and then the miscellaneous are kind of bonus points. So in week 5, we're going to give you a little survey to do. It's called a formative evaluation. You'll get a bonus point for doing that. And you can apply that to any one of these 6 SLOs when it comes down to grading. Now let's go to the very bottom here. Here's our grading. Here's the total available in each of those SLOs as it stands today. So 24 points for CSLO 1 in CS165, 32 CSLO 2. But here's your target. You need to earn 18 points in CSLO 1 and 20 points in CSLO 2 and 12 in CSLO 3. That's the max you can earn. So there's extra credit built in. So going back to what Christopher was saying, if you're struggling with a project or you don't do well on a project, it's not necessarily going to affect your grade at all. So there's extra credit built in. And same thing on the 265. Here's our available. Here's the max, including your own project. There's 12 points available, but max you can get is 10. And then these extra credit points, there's going to be 3 total as we planned it now. So basically, it's the entrance survey, it's a formative survey, and it's the end of semester survey, exit survey. 3 little surveys, they'll each take you 5 to 10 minutes to do. You'll get 3 points. And so let's say you struggle in developing the interface. Probably not going to be the case because we're going to start out. That's kind of the simple thing, and there's so many points available there. Let's say you struggle there, and you only earn 17 points, or say 16 points. We can take 2 of these 3 points and apply it to that CSLO. Now, here's what I want to suggest you doing, or what you do. So there's a macro built into this. So enable the macros, and I hope I enabled the macros here. I think I did. As you get your scores back, take the yellow highlighter and highlight your points that you earn. If you don't get those points, don't highlight them. If we give you a partial point, let's say we come in here to the roll the dice 1,000 times, you only get 1 point instead of 2, change that to a 1. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this. Okay, then as you get towards the end of the semester, you can click this calculate scores, and it's going to add those together for you based on what you have highlighted, show you how many points you had, and show you the percentage, and calculate your grade as being an A, B, C, D, E, or no, E, A, B, C, D, or F. Okay? Now, I haven't set this up to look at what's due and what's been done. So these are based on the end of the semester. Sorry, you're all starting with an F and earning your way towards an A. If I get a chance, I may redo the macro so it looks at the due dates and only takes into account what's due at that point and how you've scored in reflecting the grade to date. But for now, this is how we will grade when we submit our final grades. This is how we calculate grades. So you have the same thing available to us. You don't have to ask us, what's my grade? Because we don't necessarily know your grade until the end of the semester. But you can kind of look at this and figure out where you're at in terms of, okay, here's my points, here's how many I have to go. And you can probably do some what-if analysis of, gosh, there's all these points still available. I'm in good shape. That's our grade sheet. I'm going to go ahead and set those to no fill, because now if I choose calculate grades, we're back to zeros. By default, I did put the extra credit points into CS265. So, but you'll have to manually move those points up to the 165 if you need them there. My experience is most people 165, they breeze through. The 265 might need a few more extra points. All right. By the way, that final project you're going to do, this is going to be a very basic app you're going to create. It's an app of your own choice. Pick something you're passionate about, something you're interested in. Keep it simple, though. Do not try to recreate Facebook, okay? Thousands, or say hundreds of developers have helped create Facebook and maintain it. It took them years. You're going to create something on your own. It might be, I need an app. My dad's a carpenter. I need an app that will help him calculate how many stairs are needed in a rise of X number of feet. That's a good, simple app. There's a market for that app. I will tell you, I had a student several years ago who wrote an app. Her colleagues gave her a hard time about taking this course. And I won't tell you her background, but she was a professional, had high degrees, and her colleagues were giving her a hard time about taking an iPhone class when she was already professionally employed elsewhere. And she had a need. She had a need in her job, and she created an app for her job. And those other coworkers saw what she did and said, "Can I buy that from you? I want that. You put that on my phone?" So that's one of my other success stories out of this course is you can develop stuff for yourself. And that's largely what I've done in my own experience. I develop things for myself, and then other people want to buy those things. That's one way to create your portfolio. You know, develop stuff for yourself, develop stuff for your family and friends, and you find other people who'd like to have it. So, all right, Christopher, anything else you want to add?
The only thing I want to add is let's get started and let's have a lot of fun this semester.
Absolutely. Okay, so next time I might let Christopher do more of the talking. I kind of took over this class. If you have questions, email us. We're happy to answer those. We try to be pretty responsive. I would say I try to answer email within 24 hours. So be patient with us. I don't necessarily answer email on the weekends. I'm trying to set up some boundaries and not working as much on the weekends, and doing more things personally. So I may not answer your email on the weekend, so just be aware of that. So again, if you wait till Sunday afternoon to work on your project and you need help, we may not be there to help you. So it's another reason to kind of start early. So, all right, I agree with Christopher. Let's make this fun. Have fun with this. We have a great time teaching this course. We both like to learn, so we're going to be learning along with you in some cases, or maybe reviewing along with you. And we'll be creating some more materials. All right. So with that, we're going to end this session, and we'll try to schedule some more of these and try to do some more demonstrations. Bye, everybody.